State Treasurer's in the house. We've got a lot to talk about tonight.
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
But they're going down like flies. Matt Lauer bit the dust, on his way to bed last night. Got word that he was all done, although NBC says they had some word about, or the reports are that NBC had some word about all of this. And the morning team woke up this morning having to explain that there was no Matt Lauer in the house. Good evening. Nice to have you aboard here on My State of Mind. It just seems like every other day, right? Here is the Today Show.
We are still processing all of this. For the moment, all we can say is that we are heartbroken. I'm heartbroken for Matt. He is my dear, dear friend and my partner, and he is beloved by many, many people here. And I'm heartbroken for the brave colleague who came forward to tell her story, and any other women who have their own stories to tell.
Everyone's making the same speech about everybody that goes down. We love them. We can't believe it. I'm so heartbroken. I'm heartbroken for the victim. We all need a better script. We all need a better script. I'm working on it. But it's getting very broken record-ish. And by the way, one of the stars of public radio, Garrison Keillor, also got the heave-ho just about the time that we started recording the show today. So I'm sure there'll be more on that. And there'll be folks from public radio who will be heartbroken for him and heartbroken for the victim. I think we need much more substantial conversation about this. And again, I'm working on that. Lex, we're working on that. We need some bright minds on this, don't you think? All right. Benny's sold their properties for what seems like a pretty penny. I was theorizing on the radio yesterday that maybe this was some kind of consignment deal, right? Because the business itself has ended coming the end of this year, and obviously the model wasn't working and wasn't transferable, but the properties, 29 of 31, were owned by the family, and I guess they were able to get the Carpianato Group to buy into this. Who knows whether this will be 29 of the same kind of facilities that will replace the empty Benny's stores. But it seems to me the family did a good job selling these properties. Obviously they're of high value and they've got terrific locations. Whether it ends up repeating the same kind of business is anybody's guess. It's a very fluid economy out there, and trying to figure out what works is interesting. I've had some calls on the radio. People had some really neat and strange ideas about what could go in there, including a bowling alley chain. I don't know. See if the treasurer bowls, see if he's got anything on that. Speaking of the treasurer, we got a lot of things to talk about with him today, including the idea that people just seem to not know they got money owed to them.
I didn't know I was owed any money. And
Keith Cardoza just found out he was missing more than $300, money he had overpaid to banks.
So I was excited.
Keith is one of about 35,000 Rhode Islanders who will soon receive a check in the mail from the Rhode Island Treasurer's Office. The average check is about $250.
It's your money. There are thousands of Rhode Islanders who are owed money by companies, banks, insurance companies, utility companies, but that money never makes it to the rightful owners. And for many of them, they probably don't even know that they were missing this money.
Legislation that was passed over the summer paved the way for the new program called Your Money. Using state databases, it matches unclaimed property with the person's address so the money can be returned automatically.
Every year we take in an average of about $20 million of new unclaimed property. So from here on out, as new unclaimed property comes in, we're going to automatically be, running the same process and getting it out to people faster.
The property is not tables and chairs, it's cash.
Usually cash. We do have some tangible property.
Do you?
Too.
Like what?
So if you have a safety deposit box at a bank and you stop paying the fee, the bank doesn't just get to keep your stuff. They turn it over to us and we reunite it with the rightful owner.
You got a big vault?
We do. We actually do. But most of it's cash. And the point is, this is money that belongs to Rhode Islanders. It doesn't belong to these companies. It doesn't belong to the state, certainly. This is money that is owed to Rhode Islanders by banks, by insurance companies. And for whatever reason they've failed to reunite that money with the rightful owner, then it becomes our responsibility. So what we've done is taken the process and brought into the 21st century. It used to be with unclaimed property, you know, we would run a list in the newspaper once a year.
Right.
We would go to a farmer's market and set up a tent and see who walked by. Do you want to check and see if we had any unclaimed property? It's 2017. There's
Really? They used to do that?
Yeah.
At the farmer's market?
Sure, sure. And we still do some of that kind of outreach too. But what we've done is we've now automated a lot of it. So there are people out there who we had their names, we had all of their information, but we didn't have an updated address for them. Well, we have ways of searching now. We can search LexisNexis, we can search other state databases, and as a result of this, we are now able to send checks to about 40,000 people over the next month, about $10 million that we're reuniting with the rightful owner. And we're only the second state in the country to have an automated process like this.
Wow. That's, in Rhode Island these days, to have anything high-level automated is kind of a big bonus. By the way, welcome. Good to have you.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Appreciate you having some time to
Absolutely.
join us here. Our own radio producer, Doug McGonigal, $297.77 or something like that.
There you
We
go.
had great fun with this because he had got, you know, I looked myself up. The only thing I learned when I looked myself up, which is really cool, I was able to look myself up and found out that there were 3 other people in the state that are Yorke with an E. So like, well, that's about the best I got out of the whole thing.
That's close.
There's nobody owes me any dough. I hate that.
You make an important point, though. Even though we're now going to be automatically sending checks to a lot of people, you should still search the database, because there are a whole lot of people in the database who we still don't have enough information to have the confidence to do the, you know, automatically send the check in the mail. So people should still go to the website. It's findrimoney.com. Findrimoney.com. You can search yourself, your family members, and you know, maybe we have some money for you.
There's a neat little notation. There's the under $100 and over $100. So under $100 is like, but over $100 is like, okay, this is going to be. And you actually have to. It doesn't show necessarily on the website. You have to inquire.
Yeah, so you can do a website search. It'll tell you under 100, over 100. If you have a match, you can call our office and they'll tell you the amount. I'll tell you something funny though. Having been at this now for a few years, people get more excited the lower it is. Like, what? If it's, you know, I've seen this, you know, if it's, you know, you have $50 or $75, people are like, yeah, all right. But when you go to somebody and say, you know, we found $5,000, it's almost like they're in shock.
Or mad.
You don't, or
like, how did that happen?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a funny, like, you know.
So beer money is
$20,
exciting. Beer money is cool, but the
yeah.
fact that you could actually, you know, do a new roof on your house, it bothers the heck out of everybody.
And as you showed in the segment, of the checks that are going out over the next month to 40,000 people, the average amount is about $250, and so, you know, for some people they're going to get quite a bit.
Yeah, well, it's definitely, it's kind of like the lost wallet theory. You know, you walk around, you lose your wallet, you get your money back. You find your wallet, you feel like you're way ahead of the game. This is actually a little bit more than that, to find out that there's found money out there. I'm just amazed that that amount of money gets accumulated over the course of a year, that people just don't, that there's this kind of, I don't even know what kind of economy you call it, the lost economy, right?
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, these companies don't have a lot of incentive to put a lot of effort into finding people, right? I mean, that's part of the problem. That's the whole reason this law exists, is if I'm Bank of America or National Grid or whoever, and I owe a customer money, but I don't have a current address for them, what incentive do I have to try really hard to find the person? I don't. And so that's why we have this law that says after a few years, they have to turn it over to the state. They don't just get to keep your money.
All right, listen, there are a bunch of things I want to talk about with the Treasurer, including his commentary on the PawSox. Also, there's some small business financing the Treasurer wants to talk about. But in the meantime, I just want to remind you that if you're looking to improve the finances, you know, that you manage every day and have it all in the palm of your hand, Navigant Credit Union has a new app they'd love you to download. It's called Card Valet. Just sign up at navigantcu.org and go to the Apple Store or whatever app store you got there, download it, and find that everything in your banking world will be in the palm of your hand. Be right back.
people are hearing it, they're starting to understand that there's how important this is to the community, as well as the minimal impact that it has on the revenue streams.
There is a vocal opposition, we don't deny that, but when we explain the deal, when we explain the merits, I think it resonates with people, and I think we're seeing that at these hearings.
Two of the stalwarts fighting for the PawSox new stadium, the mayor of Pawtucket, Don Grevy, and Dan Ray is one of the key principals of the PawSox. The treasurer has weighed in on this. This is what the treasurer said in a hearing last.
Again, this is an extreme worst case scenario, but it makes sense to think about the worst case scenarios just so you know what you're up against. If the city were unable to meet its obligations, then you would have a receivership type scenario where an individual would be appointed to sort through which of the city's bill, how much of the city's bills they would pay and in what order and all of that. There's a whole procedure for that.
So, I mean, that was perfunctory, and I understand that you were just in the middle of, and that's, it's a 12-second cut out of a long presentation.
Right.
So I want you to be able to give context. But you're hitting on something that I think has created a real significant neuroses, more so than I think is necessary, and that is whether the city of Pawtucket is able to take care of itself. It's like,
right.
Here comes the choo-choo, the way the legislature has been trying to spoon feed, whether they're responsible enough to actually take on a $15 million portion of a bond, at least as it's described right now. I know you've got different calculations, and we'll talk about that. Do you express the same kind of worry that Pawtucket doesn't know what the hell they're doing?
Well, first of all, I started out as a skeptic of the deal in general, the PawSox deal. But I was able to get comfortable with it over time, and I'm supportive of it now. Well, in part because the original plan, the Providence plan, was not well conceived.
Oh, that deal, got it.
Yeah, sure. And so, I think like a lot of people, I went into looking at the new one with, a dose of skepticism based on that. But after spending a lot of time on it, I became comfortable with it, and I do support it for a couple reasons. First, I think it's a positive for quality of life for Rhode Island families. We should have amenities. We should have parks and bike paths and art venues, and yes, in this case, minor league baseball, that is affordable for families. $8 a ticket, and it's something that you don't have to break the bank to go and take your family out. That's a good thing. I also feel good about it because if you look at minor league baseball deals that have been done around the country over the last 20 years, this is the most taxpayer-friendly structure of any AAA or AA ballpark to be done anywhere in the country in decades. The team paying a majority of the cost, covering the cost overruns, etc. So I do think there are ways that the bill can be improved, and that's what I was talking about when I was testifying. I would like to see some tweaks. But overall, I feel this is a step in the right direction, and PawSox belong in Rhode Island.
Devil's in the details of the criticism. Yeah. And listen, anything that massages this to the better of the taxpayers, I think, is fine. But I think we've come to a point. Right now, I'm learning that there's going to be another meeting between the PawSox and the Senate to try to craft some kind of redirect, maybe of naming rights revenue for the stadium toward financing the actual Pawtucket side of the deal. But we got a $71 million, an $81 million principal deal here, with 45, 12 down and 33 for the PawSox. The state's $23 million, the city's $15 million. Local government elected officials have a responsibility to make smart fiduciary decisions on the part, or for the part, on behalf of their citizens. Do you trust that Pawtucket knows what they're doing?
I believe that this, and again, this is after a lot of time of due diligence, spending a lot of time looking at this plan is affordable for both the state and the city.
All right, so you changed the numbers a little bit. So you've actually thrown another, what, $10, $12 million into the basis on this whole thing. Why?
It's not quite that much, but it's, you have to, when you're doing these projections, you have to include issuance costs. So whenever you float a bond, there's legal costs, there's what can be called deferred interest, which you have to set a little bit aside, for contingencies. And so that increases the price tag by a few $1 million above what the team was originally presenting. But even with that, this is affordable. And I'll tell you what.
$1 million. As I understood it, the headlines on your presentation, I just want to make sure we're being accurate here, we're at least $10 million.
Including the part that's borne by the team. So the state's piece goes up by $2 or $3 million. The city's team part goes up by, I think, about $1.5 million when you include those issuance costs.
In terms of principal?
Yes, in terms of principal. So, but again, taking a step back, it's affordable. At the state level, we did an analysis of the state's borrowing capacity over the next 10 years. And the 23 million or 24 million with issuance costs that the state would be responsible for is about 2% of the state's borrowing capacity over the next decade. So the state can afford this. The city, same deal. We did an analysis of their borrowing capacity. 3 out of the 4 factors we looked at, the city was in the safe zone in terms of their level of borrowing, even with this new bond. So if the city chooses to make this a priority and something that they want to bond for, they can afford it. The cost to the city all in, you're looking at about $1 million a year, and even for a period of time in our state's history when times are tight, that's affordable. And so if city leaders agree with me that this is a good investment in quality of life and can help revitalize a part of downtown Pawtucket that frankly has been barren for a long time, then yeah, they can afford it.
What do you think about the politics of this? The Senate is soon to, either before or just after the holidays, take a vote in Senate Finance, I'm told anyway, and maybe the full Senate itself. The Speaker of the House sees this as a complete hot potato, completely petrified over it, and the governor has been supportive but tepid. Are you engaging in the political dialogue here at all?
Yeah, I mean, look, I went and I testified in favor of the plan and, offered some ideas for how to make the bill better and introduce some additional taxpayer protections. But ultimately, I support the plan. I've made that known to everyone. But I think that every principal involved here, the House, the Senate, the governor, the Commerce Department, the city, they all have to go through their own diligence process. And I am actually positive on the fact that we have gone through so much diligence. I mean, regardless of whether this deal goes through or not, and regardless of whether the PawSox stay or leave, which I hope doesn't happen, I don't think anybody can say that at this point the state hasn't done significant due diligence. I mean, what do we had? 7 hearings, public hearings, 8 hearings. So, and
your reflection
it's a good,
on the philosophy,
open process.
The philosophy debate, which is that no private entity ought to be publicly subsidized?
Well, it's important to remember that this would be a publicly owned park.
Right.
It's a publicly owned park that could be used for other public purposes. And it's a publicly owned park that the owners of the team have still offered to pay a majority of the cost for and cost overruns. So in a perfect world, would you have private individuals build the city a public park for free? Well, yeah, but we don't live in a perfect world. And it's worth remembering again that compared to other deals of its type, other AA and AAA ballparks, this is the most taxpayer-friendly arrangement that's happened anywhere in the country in the last 20 years. And it would be a good thing for Rhode Island families.
Well,
so I hope it happens.
I think that's a pretty clear statement, don't you? When we come back, we'll talk about some other initiatives, including some of the small business banking stuff. Stay with us. Oh yeah, well, actually that hallway doesn't look so bad. There are plenty of school buildings out there that you walk through and say, holy moly. What do you think, Treasurer? We got a whole bunch of money that we got to spend in these schools. Give me the couple of minutes on what you think we ought to do.
We have to fix these schools. So let's start big picture. Every child deserves to go to a school that is warm, safe, and dry. Period. No parent should have to worry when they put their kid on the school bus in the morning.
So that's the national cliche/category for must spending, and then there's the
bare minimum.
Other stuff.
So that's the bare minimum, is these schools need to be safe, which not all of them are right now. And then on top of that, wouldn't it be great if we actually had school facilities that could teach our kids the skills they need for a 21st century workforce?
So
Science
between
labs,
$600 million and $2 billion. What do you think we should do?
So
$600 million is the warm, safe, and dry.
So right, the report that came out this year found that to make our schools warm, safe, and dry, you're talking over $600 million. To really get our schools up to a national level caliber, you're talking about $2 billion. I'm co-chairing a working group with Ken Wagner, the Education Commissioner, and we are tasked with coming up with a plan that the governor can put in her budget. That plan is due in 2.5 weeks, December 15th, so we are working around the clock on it, and we know we need to do something big. And it's, to your point, it's a big enough problem that everybody's going to have to step up. So cities and towns are going to have to do a little more, the state's going to have to do some more. One of the ideas that I think we have to look at is some state bonding for K through 12 schools. Rhode Island hasn't done a state bond for K-12 schools since 1984. Meanwhile, Massachusetts has done it 7 out of the last 9 years. So it's too big a problem for the burden to fall all in one place, but we all have to come together and make this more of a priority. And it's not just about spending more, it's also about spending smarter. And after we fix these buildings, making sure that we maintain them properly so that they don't fall apart again 10 years from now. We need to make sure that we're spending in the right places so that, you know, we're not spending money on a press box for the football stadium when the school really needs a science lab. So there's going to be a few pieces to this plan. One is we're going to have to invest some more. Two is we've got to spend smarter.
Since you came up with that I don't know, that example,
yeah,
that kind of press box spending, you're going to come up with if that's a local discretion versus, in other words, are you going to align certain kinds of expenditures by state bonding and then others by local bonding or local spending or priorities?
So I think if the state is going to be spending a share of the cost to repair school buildings, then it is appropriate to say if you're going to use state money, community X, then we want you to use it for warm, safe, and dry, 21st century learning, you know, these things that we know matter. If you want to spend your own money on your own without the state and build a press box, fine, go ahead. But if state money is going to be involved, we're going to make sure that you spend it wisely.
All right, so that's 2.5 weeks from now.
Yeah.
You and the commissioner can swing back in the new year and talk about this, because this is going to be the big 2018 conversation. It's going to roll into the campaign season too, which is going to be fascinating.
Well, I hope it is the big 2018 conversation, because it's overdue.
Yeah, no doubt. And give me a minute on what's going on with the small banking program.
Well, Rhode Island has a lot of talented entrepreneurs, small business owners who want to grow, who want to hire more people, but they have a hard time getting the access to capital, you know, the loans that they need to grow their business. So we launched something called the Bank Local program, where we are moving some of the state's cash to local community banks and credit unions, where a lot of the small business lending happens, moving our money back home to help promote access to capital for small businesses. So if you're a credit union or a small bank and you make a $50,000 loan so that somebody can expand their barber shop or their restaurant, we'll put an equal amount of cash in your institution and hold it there for a period of time. There's no risk to the state. The state's not deciding who gets the loans and who doesn't. That's left up to the experts at the bank.
There's a cap per institution, correct?
Yeah, so there's a cap to the whole program of $30 million. But what we're basically doing is moving our money back home to help promote the local economy.
Because you keep a certain amount of money in cash reserves anyway.
Exactly.
Earning no interest.
These days, earning very little interest. So we might as well have that money help the local economy by moving it back home to Rhode Island. That's the idea.
Makes sense. But people still apply for their own local loans for the local institutions. It's just, you're just providing some kind of a cash flow backstop to these banks?
Correct. Helping these local lending institutions with capital that they can then lend out.
All right. Makes sense. What's your economic forecast for 18? I got 20 seconds.
That's a big question for 20 seconds. I'm hopeful. You know, we've had some good news this week for Rhode Island between Emphasis and Virgin Pulse and the nursing school in downtown Providence finally opening. So I'm hopeful, but we're still a long way from where we need to be, so we've got to keep working.
Isn't that what they all say? Got to keep working. Well, it's true. It's obvious. Good visit. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Final word when we come back. Stay with us. Alrighty, so I guess for tomorrow night, we're flying by the seat of our pants here. We are going to explore a little bit of the dynamics of this now Matt Lauer controversy. Whose controversy is it? I don't know. We'll see the scorecard tomorrow night, I guess. See you on the radio at 3 on WPRO. Bye.